So you said after the life experience, and then we have what we think is the death experience, which isn't. Um, that we have to face every thought, every act, every deed. Is there any way, based upon our consciousness, that we had done something wrong? Is there any way to ameliorate that? To change that, either with the person that we wronged, with the circumstance? Is there any overt act of love or compassion or mercy or awareness that can ameliorate, change what we've done in the past?
Okay. The amelioration, as far as this student is aware of, comes immediately after the action. If you're aware that you have done something wrong and you immediately take action to correct it, you may change the effect of that act. For instance, let's give an example. You hit somebody in the street, and it was simply an error. You didn't see the person there, but you stopped and helped that person through their difficult time, say in the hospital. And if they were poor, you paid all their expenses to bring them back to health, and you remained in contact with that human being. Why do you think that act occurred? We need to think about it. Perhaps it comes from the previous life. Perhaps it is an exchange. He might have done something in the previous one. In this one, it's you who is doing the error. So it's a two-way road, and then you can change the outcome of that event. Suppose you hit somebody and you just pretended you didn't see it, and you just drove away. That event is recorded, and its payment or its due opposite reaction will come back to you. We just said where it is recorded in the occult aura. It is recorded on the electromagnetic field. We call it the astral body or astral sphere of the human being. It is nevertheless recorded. It never is lost. So if you immediately take action and do something about it, because the event has already occurred, you cannot take it back.
Mm-hmm.
Or say the doctor is doing a delivery and he uses the forceps wrongly and damages the head of the baby. Is he responsible? He is to some degree responsible for his action, is he not? He didn't do it on purpose, but the outcome nevertheless is that new soul, because the baby is a new soul coming into incarnation, but it's an old soul because it has lived before. Our babies are souls that have lived many, many lives before. So they are just asking for entrance to come through. So if the doctor assumes responsibility instead of pretending that it didn't happen, because why should there be lawyers after people to go and sue the doctors? What is that going to do? It doesn't do anything. It just makes the lawyers richer. But if the doctor himself assumes that responsibility, that he did an error and will correct it for that baby, then he will change the outcome of that event.
Is it possible that the error really is right for that soul to have to go through that experience? Do you see what I'm
I do
saying?
understand what you're saying, that karmically it was their due, that perhaps they had done something in the previous life. But nevertheless, what is the correct terminology that we use? Love and compassion has to be extended to each human soul at every moment of their life on earth. That doesn't mean just because he had done something wrong in the past, we should just abandon the new baby, the new soul coming into incarnation, and say, too bad, you did something, now here it is, suffer. We have all done errors. To err is human, because our mind principle is what really is the swaying part. If the lower is in the ascendancy, which it is, at this time, which it should not be, because we are intelligent human beings, and when these ideals and philosophical concepts are introduced, we need to ask, what is the basis? Where is it coming from? How is it useful? Because as we said, this is not a conversion. This is an inner discriminative power slowly exerting its influence and expression in the universe through the higher mind. So if if not if we are gods, we need to assume the position of the higher and not say, I'm a simple little human being, I don't have any choices. No, 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 no. I am a god in the making. I can do something about every situation that comes. And in the hospital, people would say, you're not suggesting that I made myself sick. Because that's exactly what the suggestion was. Because I am in charge of my health. And if my correct thinking, correct diet, correct speech, correct action percolates in this physical body, I am responsible for my health. Somebody is not out there responsible for me. Each human being is responsible for their health. What is disease? Look at it that way. This is. So what are we causing? We're causing pain to these lives. We are an alchemical process. All of the lives in the physical body are also active. We designate the logos that way. What does a cell in the body look like? That way. It has a nucleus and it has nucleolus in it, and it has DNA and RNA and messenger RNA. Where do you think those messages are coming from? We need to think and correlate those concepts truly, because the logoic light is an intelligent force. Between its thinking process and the imprinting of what that thinking process is onto the Akashic light, there is no time lapse between it. Our universe is very intelligent. It works under law and precision law. The solar system is under that same law. So to change it requires effort. Yeah.
So, I have a lot of questions. This might be going out of the scope, but when you mentioned sleep and how even through sleep we are connecting electromagnetically, telepathically, I've always felt that sleep is very important, and I've had periods of insomnia, and I do feel like once I finally get sleep that I'm finally connected back to everyone. Can you speak, do you know of anything of like the importance of sleep
Yeah.
and dreams?
Sleep and death are related. This is just simply a longer sleep. Who is sleeping? Who's doing the sleeping? The physical body has become quiet. The lower mind activity has ceased. So where are you going? This bit is quiet. Through the antaskarana consciousness, where are you going? You're going home. The soul knows how to do that. Every night, you're up and down through these different levels of consciousness. So your consciousness then is going towards the spiritual aspect. In sleep, the only part that sleeps is the body. And the lower mind is quiet. There's no electrical activity. The lower mind is quiet. Once that electrical activity stops, you have then moved to higher levels of consciousness. First you go through the astral body, then you go through the jiva, then you go through to your divine mind, and HP talks about 4 different levels of consciousness in the voice of the silence. So I'm sure there's more than that, maybe 7, but that's all she gives. She says we have waking consciousness, Japrat, which is this consciousness when you're in the body, because all of your principles have to function through that. And then you go into Swapna, which is your dreaming state. You're passing through. The physical body has fallen asleep. Now you're in your astral or the electromagnetic body. And then she says you go to Shushupti. This is your deepest sleep state. So that deep sleep state that has moved you to the higher levels of consciousness, to your divine mind and Buddhi. And where do you go from there? Turya. And this is the highest, she mentions. Turya is the highest spiritual. Perhaps we become one that's higher up during that period. Even if it is momentary, she says, these states are tremendously beneficent to us because the soul knows what it is doing on those levels of consciousness. It's alive, it's active, it's learning, it's moving, it's doing. It's just that the personality is not aware of what is going on over there. So what is it that we need to do? We just said we need to bring about this change in the mind principle. This is what is the plan for our future, that we become functional at the higher levels of that consciousness, which is the divine mind, because that mind is the knower. It knows. It has recorded all the lives that we have gone through. That is the spiritual in its own sheet, whatever we're going to call it. The aura, aura she called it. So, yes, and when you bring some of that beneficent experiences that you had in those higher realms, then what have you become? A beneficent force on earth, because you retain some of the memory of the higher realms. So yes, and in that state, you're communicating where? You have become a god, you're communicating with all of the other gods telepathically. Where do we go? The consciousness is one, perhaps, with Maha. So, yes, they're very important.
And
Yes?
to go off that, in like my understanding of Buddhist meditation, it's all about quieting the mind. So again, is that the lower mind, the base?
So meditation then is to teach us. Most of us don't know how to meditate. We're just learning to concentrate, which is the first concentrate. To become one with your higher self knowingly is what meditation is about. It is not sitting in some corner and looking in the air. That's not the purpose of it. Concentration then is putting your lower mind on one thing only, one thing, and holding it there. Because what is its natural tendency? It flips all over the place. It goes from one idea to the next, one memory to the next, and it flips you everywhere. So concentration then is to learn to become one pointed. And as you make this effort, who is coming to your aid? The higher mind. Because the knower is there and is looking and perceiving the trial and error on your part trying to reach that. But it's the other way around, actually. You're inviting the higher mind to come and take control. Because until this process takes place, the higher mind cannot exhibit itself on earth. It's not of this earth. It is of a higher consciousness. So you need to invite it in and give that power, willingly sacrifice the self, this self, to this self. This is the individuality and that one is the personality. The personality has to be subjugated to the individuality so that this unity occurs and all our activity then is known, because we know how we are passing through the levels of consciousness, how we go and how we come back. You have become a god on earth, or partially develop in your higher aspects, and then you become a beneficent force for all those around you.
Another question. Did you have another question?
I don't know. Go ahead. Okay. I think he does.
I've seen self spelled with all caps too. Could you talk about that part of it?
Yeah. That's Alaya, the universal soul from which basically tells us in the separate doctrine each unit first came from. She designates it this way. Each human individuality being array from that source, but she calls it the central spiritual sun. As this sun is a window cut into that reality, and its rays give light to all that it affects in the solar system. Our sun is the central star for us, and it provides light. So each unit of that is the Christ principle we had mentioned earlier, and that Christ principle comes from this core, which is the essence of all that lives and has its being in the solar system. Now, she says we don't apply the theory or the metaphysics of what she tells us to the other world, because even in the solar system, what happens on Earth is not reality, because we are inverted. As you know from physics, the mind is what uprights, the thinking principle is what uprights what you see with your eyes, because we look at it upside down. So she says there's the astral light in between that and this world, and astral light is upside down. It reverts everything upside down, so we look at things upside down. So that one self from which we come is unity. Unity is not a word, it is real existence, because we form part of that whole. Every one of us has its own place in the scheme of the universe. Not one of us is more important than the other one, but not one of us is less important than the other one. And position, power, does not play into it. The spiritual essence and its expression in the universe is what we're all about. To bring about this change in the mind principle is necessary, because she tells us we are going to become etherealized as we go. From first rays down to the fourth, we become solidified. But our return journey, we're going to etherealize again. And she says in the next round, Akasha, or the astral light, will be visible in the air. So these sound like magical statements to this student, because I cannot envision a world with these in it. But nevertheless, this is our future. No death, simply change of consciousness. We go from life, rest, until we become conscious of who we are, what is our purpose in life, and where do we fit in the scheme of things. Then that conscious effort to reach that higher aspect of life will bring about this change in all of us. Yes?
You mentioned that the sun is a window into the spiritual world, and it is life itself, and that we are meant to etherealize. There are people, or there is a concept here that says that we can become less dependent on the physical body and more dependent upon the sun, which does give life, which means that there are some people who feel that it's not necessary really to eat for the body, to use the nutrition provided by the sun itself. and so they are able to do without food. Is this a possibility, and is this a movement towards becoming more ethereal and less dependent upon the physical body, and more dependent upon the higher realm of the spirit of the highest in divinity?
The question is this possible?
Mhm.
Well, this is a student who studied science for many, many years. And when you look under the microscope, what does the cell look like? It looks like it just has a little boundary, but nothing is solidified in it. And where are the electrons that make the atoms? Who has ever seen them? Do you think we're really solid, is what I'm asking you. We give the impression that we are, but are we really solid? First, each cell is a universe. It has its nucleus and then another nucleus in it, which is nucleolus. This one, nucleolus, and this one is nucleus, and this is the cell. It's a world, she tells us. She has a very succinct article where she discusses the atoms. And she says they're never made. They're universal and immortal. That the two aspects of the universe is, she calls it Mula Prakriti and Parabrahma. Again, there is no English word I can say to make it really clear as to what that really is. But we can call it space. There are two aspects to this space. Motion is its essence. Motion. So the essence of the atom is also motion. She says the motion of these atoms are what gives our universe its motion, that they're continuously in motion. So to answer your question is, first we need to define what a world is in you, in your physical cells, which they are not really physical cells, they just give the impression of it. Why do you think we look stationary? Because the constituent parts are vibrating so fast you can't perceive it. That's one idea you need to hold on to in your mind. And it is intelligent. The cells are intelligent because she tells us intelligence is not just appropriate to the brain, but it is distributed into all of the organ systems of the body. Each organ having its own kind of memory. It knows how to do that function 100% of the time. In other words, it has perfected itself in that ability. For instance, the cells of the stomach digest. The cells of the liver purify. The cells of the pancreas enable your white cells to assume the defense position of the body. Every organ has its own unique function. So these atoms are very, very intelligent. I'll come back to it. She calls them destroyers and what? Life givers. Same power, but in one function it destroys, in the other function it preserves. So, yes, as you think more and more in these lines, what are you doing to yourself, Andra? You are inviting into your body more refined atoms, are you not? Which are more ethereal, and in time, when those ethereal atoms in congregation from the divine aspect of you work in the higher realms, you will need less and less food to subsist on earth. But that is a very long way off. Most of us cannot even know what it is right to eat here. Look at the American dilemma. we have become a nation on earth that do not have good health. And our health system spends billions of dollars every year. Well, this student doesn't know where all this money is going, but it's going somewhere. But it's not giving us health.
The, 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 the issue that you spoke of, and that is the change in the mind principle, and the readings that we did at the beginning indicates that there's a effort that's necessary in order for the personality or individual, for the individual to gain control over the physical organs that you're talking about and the physical senses, because the physical organs and the physical senses, from the reading that we did earlier, is controlled by, on this plane, passion.
Material side.
Yes, material side. Is controlled by passion, and ultimately the senses and the organs make us believe that that's all there is. So consequently, we continue to function out of a lower self, or the lower mind is in control, which prevents us from getting to the higher self or to the higher mind.
What's your question?
Okay, so the vehicle for doing that has been, I believe, is meditation.
For bringing this change about.
For bringing this change about, for bringing this control over the physical senses, the desires and the passions, in order for the lower self to reach
Yes.
the higher mind.
Look at what's written on the board. Passion, desire. That needs to be controlled. If your passions and desires are personal gain, for personal advancement, for personal power, personal gain, then where is the chain going to go to, or how is it going to come
Well,
about? This here has to be changed. The karma is karma manas. So that this passion and desire principle actually works with the lower mind, because the way we have developed it, it is kind of attached to one another. The desires are all personalized. So what's the key word there? Selfishness. This is the last question, and then if you all want to discuss it, I will remain and answer your question. But Kamamanas is personal. All of your activity and energy is for yourself, which is selfish. Selfishness incarnate is who we have become, because we are so self-centered, we don't know what is really going on around us. We are so stuck on what that's license, because the lower mind was once license. That was one of the aspects. You didn't get to it. Freedom and license are not the same thing. What the lower mind wants is license to do as it wishes.
Yes.
And it has to be controlled. And this here has to be used for higher purposes. And if you can sit in half an hour in concentration, and you come out and go about your business and the same happens, you haven't done anything. Concentration on its own is not going to be able to direct your energy in that manner. All of it has to work together. In other words, you have to make a conscious effort to control your lower self. At first, it is a conscious effort, but as the higher mind and buddhi become active, because as the higher mind is working, buddhi comes to its it's eight. What is buddhi? It's that higher will called virya. He tells us in the Gita, Krishna says, it goes out like lightning and cuts all difficulty asunder. These are not words, they're living realities. But until you experience it, you have to accept what is said at face value. You have to test it for yourself. Nowhere in this writing have I ever read, accept it, believe it. Belief and faith is not the same thing. Faith is the innermost, highest aspect of each individuality. But belief depends on dogma that we are fed continuously from the outside. Faith is an internal quality of the soul. Belief is an external imposement of the human mind by dogma, by people telling you what is. She says, until you make this philosophy your own and you live it, you will not know what it is. Because she says, it must become a living power in you. She doesn't say, believe the speaker. She doesn't say, accept what is being said. She says, all that the speaker can do is bring the concept forth according to her or his understanding. It is up to you to test it, to see if it has relevance. Is it true to your heart? This is what makes it a living power in you. And when that power is active, then you will know. Because it tells you what is right. Your conscience tells you what is right and what is wrong. It doesn't tell you what not to do, but it tells you what is wrong. That leaves you free to act according to your choices. Because that is the human right choice. So until your choices become in sync with that higher self, sitting in meditation will not be useful to you. You have to control it all around. You have to think right, you have to have soft speech and kind speech for others. You have to help. Even if it is a smile you give to somebody rather than an ugly word, that is help. You have to help because she says justice, mercy, charity, generosity, all are the imprint of the human heart. And until its expression is in the world, we shall not know what changes can bring about. These are not words. These are living realities. Once you live it,